photo, you may be able to deduct that I used to like to travel a lot. This year has been proven to be quite a difficult year for that, but I'm doing my best to get most out of Singapore, where I'm based now, to become a tourist again over the weekend or holidays, to just put my mind there. And surprisingly, I got a lot of new places of interest after this year of being locked down in Singapore. If anyone needs any travel tips in Singapore, let me know after the session. We'll keep it. Passion for people, culture, food, in that particular order. So like, I believe that like the reason why I'm in HR industry is because I'm very passionate about people. And I strongly believe that culture has a role to play. I'll talk about it later. And then last but not least, food. I'm a foodie. So being in the F&B industry now gives me a lot of advantages to a lot of good food. Born in Hong Kong, now based in Singapore. Previously, when I was still studying, quite a while ago, I used to stay in Rouen, which was in France, and got the chance to be based there for like half a year and take the chance again to travel. Current job scope, something Abin has already mentioned. Industries, there you go. A bit of background, some people want to know. Like, so my educational background, I had a degree in language studies with business, and also recently got my graduate diploma in counseling. I think there will be a lot of things that I'll need to get a bit more insight from Kevin, because she's now a certified counselor. So we'll talk about it after the session again. And I saw some claps. Thank you so much, Eddie. So this is your time to type. So what comes to your mind when you see the word culture? Let me know. I want to learn from you as well. Inherent practices. People.
Yeah.
Something defines the people. Okay. Tradition. Leadership. Cool. Behavior.
Social traditions.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. As you can see, there are actually a lot of different interpretations of what culture means. That's why I need to go to Google, obviously, my favorite friend. So Wikipedia told us this particular definition, but there are like tons of other definitions out there. So what it says there is a culture is an umbrella term that encompasses the social behavior. I think you mentioned about behavior, norms, some of you mentioned about it as well, found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, and different other things of the individuals in these groups. It's quite interesting because I think 5 years ago, when I asked the same question, people would just talk about nationality. But nowadays, people talk about more things. And I think it was Esther who rightly mentioned that there's like multi-layer of different things that we look at when it comes to culture. Now, essentially, human, when we acquire culture, where did that come from? It's through the learning process of the and cultural rotation kind of, and so socialization. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce all these complicated words, but then it's shown up as the diversity of cultures across different societies. So diversity, I would consider as a key word here, because there are so many different cultures. And it is important to keep in mind that we are usually not born with a culture, but we learn it through the way, right? Another typing time. So you sign up for this course, for this session, not really a course, like sharing session for a reason, right? So why should you, as HR professionals, care about culture and cross-cultural management? Let's see what you think.
Why? Okay.
As HR professional, why does that matter to you? Enhance work relationship and engagement, cool. Good relationship with staff and also stakeholders, not just employees, good. Cool. What else? Respectful, yay, cool. tap into diversity of people to create optimal result. Awesome. Oh, and also company's growth as well. Cool. Better managing diverse workforce. Okay, cool. One more, I see. Employees' behavior. Oh yeah, because culture is behavior, right? So that's why we want to manage them. Cool, awesome. I'll read all the details like a bit later, but thanks for all your input. So cross-cultural management and diversity inclusion. I think some of you mentioned down there like about diversity. I think in a few replies as well. So what exactly is that? So the diversity is, again, there are tons of different definitions. This is the one that I like the most. Is the characteristics that make you, us, uniquely you, and allow you to bring a distinctive and diverse point of view to work. Yeah, and then diversity is like an iceberg. I'm not sure if the image is showing very clearly on your screen, but basically as an iceberg, like there are parts that is above the water and there are parts that are below the water. So the most obvious one is obviously the above the water one, like race, gender, age. I'm not sure whether that's very apparent, but like it's more above the water. Is again, as I mentioned 5 years ago, people usually mention about all these aspects. But then there are a lot of like small little things below the water. That's why you can't quite read it if your screen is not big enough. So there are different things like styles, skills, experiences, where you're at, what kind of language you speak, the working style, your family upbringing, education, etc. There's so many different things. So in a way, every one of us is unique. So basically, diversity, no matter which team you're in, is there. You can't escape from it. Even though me and Combin are based in Singapore, we are like working at HR. There's so many different other layers that like we are different, right? So essentially, everyone is different. So diversity is just like how different types of people come together. Now, the tricky part or the fascinating part is the inclusion. So inclusion is creating the environment where every individual and group feels welcome, respect, I think some of you mentioned about that word, supported and valued to fully participate and then to reach their full potential. So inclusion is about embracing the differences and offer respect, again, that comes up again, in words and actions in all people. So I would say that like not just HR, but everyone in the organization will have a role to make sure that the environment is inclusive, because like you can't do that alone. It's just like any other kind of business issues that like has to do with people, the line managers can usually or easily say that talk to HR. But hey, they're people too, and they're managing the team. They should have the role, right? So everyone has a responsibility for that. But for HR, we have a strong focus on that because that helps the company to perform well. So this is like very detailed, but essentially the importance of D&I, diversity and inclusion, is about the advantage of attracting different talent, improve customer orientation. Well, that one may need a bit of explanation, especially for those with consumer goods that are customer facing. You actually need to attract the consumers to purchase your product. Why should they purchase a product? Because they like to use it, or they may like the value. How would we be able to come up with the best solutions for them and reflect their real needs is what it means. The third point is about greater employee satisfaction. And the fourth point is better decision making. So at the end of the day, all these combined, it actually make business sense in terms of why we care about D&I. Now, why D&I is sometimes difficult to achieve. Again, typing time, when you see this bold kind of slide, please automatically go to your keyboard and type something. So why diversity and inclusion can sometimes, if not always, be difficult. Biases restrict us. No real cooperation. Inherent mindsets. Yeah, all very good answers. Keep on typing as I move along, because we are all human. So this is like a kind of cartoon figure, and basically a slide that we use when we talk about leadership skills within Yum. But I'm trying to like simplify it as much as possible to make it make sense to this particular topic. So every day we face tons of different situations, whether to make a business decision, whether you go into a team meeting or something. At the end of the day, like we react or respond to it in certain way. It kind of demonstrates in behavior, just like what you mentioned about culture earlier on, right? But what exactly, like, because like there's so many different people in the same situation, why do people behave differently? Well, they think differently. So situation plus thinking become the behavior. That's what we call S plus T equals B, just for the sake of being easier to remember, S plus T equals B. So thinking, why are thinking so different for different people? Well, it has something to do with our feelings as well. When we feel something, we probably react in certain way or respond in certain way, which impact our thinking, right? And then where do all these come from? Well, there are many factors again, but the key ones will be here, like physical conditions. It could be on the day I'm unwell, I didn't sleep enough, for example. It could be the case. Past experiences, oh, I have experienced something similar before. It may not be related to you, but like someone else did something to me, but they said exactly the same word, then I can kind of imagining that will happen between you and me again. My core values, what matters most to me, and then in the end, like our own character. Now, how can we change that? Do you think we can change that, first of all? Well, I'll think if people can have different behaviors to the same situation, then by right, they can think differently and then behave differently, right? But then, as you have mentioned earlier, different people have different beliefs, experiences, etc. How can that work? So there are actually, we have summarized it like 6 different ways to address your possible biases. First of all, is recognize and accept that you may have biases. We all have, actually, not just may have, we all have. And then focus and be aware of our own kind of behavior. How do we show up in front of people? How do we react or respond to certain things? Question our own assumptions. We all operate by assumptions because it's very difficult for us to imagine everything that would be super different from yesterday. Say, for example, I may need to assume that the bus stop is still where it is for me to take the bus today, right? I will assume that the same bus 147 will take me to the same place when I take the bus. So like simple assumptions we all have, but there are times when we need to question our own assumptions about ourselves and also about others. Explore the awkwardness and discomfort, because sometimes when we talk to or when we don't talk to certain people, it's because we're not comfortable with them. Why is that the case? Can we ask ourselves that question? Is that something that happened in the past that shaped me to who I am today? The second last one is engage with people who are different from you. I consider that very important, because if you don't know the person enough, then you use your imagination and assumptions to run it for you. Our brain is very smart. They like to do shortcuts. It's easy, it's convenient, but then you need to start changing your brain, like start to challenge it by saying, hey, I actually haven't spoken with people, I don't know, who study in Africa, for example. If I can talk to more people with that background, then I get to have a sense of like what their life is like. Last but not least, get feedback. Constantly be open and get feedback, then you learn from it. So there is like 6 things so complicated. What should I do about it? I can't remember all these. So that's why I actually really like this saying of our own chief D&I officer, James Philip, was talking about. It's an art. It's not like rocket science, but it's an art. It's about authenticity, being true to yourself, being open to others' ideas, being open for others being their authentic self. Relationship, build a relationship through that sharing. And from there, we build trust. And with trust, then we kind of believe that everyone has good intention, then it will be much easier for us to cooperate. And it'll be easier, like as a teamwork, to work together and achieve like business results. And that's about it. Like there will be much more after that, but then keep that in mind. I am looking forward to hearing from Combin, because I know that she has a lot of practical tips to share with you as well.
Wow, thank you. Combin, please.
Yeah. So thanks, Kay, for this fantastic presentation, and also making sure that the audience is awake by asking them all the questions. Yeah. And yes, I think that that's a very good session. And let's continue. And I'll build up on what Kay has just told us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more about why cross-cultural management is very important, especially in these times of COVID. Yeah. So first of all, let me again say a good afternoon to everyone and hope all of you are safe and healthy. I know that in certain countries, the situation is quite bad currently, and I really hope and pray that this situation can be eased out. Yeah. I also know that today is a Saturday afternoon and many people have many plans. And since you all are here, I think I want to talk something which is very close to my heart. Yeah. And this is something about cross-cultural management over the entire years of my experience that I have worked for many different companies and also learned a lot from that. Yeah. And this cross-cultural management has taken a completely new meaning during these COVID times. Actually, now that you see, okay, COVID has completely changed how people are going to work. You know, it's very clear to all of us that some people will work from office, some people will work from home, some people will use the hybrid setting. Most of us are using the hybrid setting and will continue. I think this has become like where, when, how much you want to work is all depending now on the employees because the COVID situation is very bad. And that's something that we all have to face. Okay, it is a fact of life, and no matter how much all of us wish that this ends soon, we know it will take some time, and it will. But will everything go back to normal? I don't think so. You know, everything will not be what it was pre-COVID. Pre-COVID will be a time that we will tell our children and our grandchildren, oh, you know, that there was a pre-COVID time. So let me just come to the most important aspect here is in this time, okay, of technology, of video calls, of virtual meetings, what is the most important thing that we need to understand in this cross-cultural management that we are talking of? It is about communication, okay? How effectively can we communicate with our colleagues? Okay, already if you see that this communication is becoming the focus, the main point of focus for people management. Okay, so cross-cultural know-how and agility means how fast can you be able to adapt, you know, and how fast can you understand what the other person of another culture and another, whatever we call it, nationality, or we call it maybe the sexual orientation, or we can call it, you know, diversity, age, whatever we say. But how fast can this happen? So cross-cultural know-how and agility is a crucial trait now for all our international workforce to have. How fast can we adjust to the surrounding? How fast can we know what's happening? Yeah. Already in this COVID time, what happens is that there is a complete blurring of personal and work life. If you realize, you know, it's not that it's not that home has interrupted work. You know, we are not, just because we are working from home doesn't mean that our home life is interrupting our work life. It is our office life, it is our work life that is interrupting our home life. Yeah. And all managers and bosses can see that. It's not that they don't know, everybody knows about it. And suddenly you see, you know, like you see people on video call saying, just give me a minute, give me 5 minutes. That day I was having a meeting with my boss and suddenly my grandbaby came there, you know, and I said, boss, can you just give me a minute? It was an important call with my CEO. The CEO said, fine, please take your time, you know. So the point here is that we have these things and we are all onto this video call session and all that. Now, some people understand, some they don't. And the other thing is about subtle nuances that happen. When last time what used to happen? We used to meet. We used to have annual meetings, HR meetings, this strategy meeting, key leaders meeting. Everything used to be face to face. Okay. Now, COVID has proven us wrong. All this face to face can be done via technology. But what is the price that we are paying there? We are missing on all the subtle nuances that used to happen. We used to have time with our colleagues. That evening time, that drink time, that dinner time is where we used to share our thoughts, our fears with our colleagues, we used to get closer to them because of that. Now what do? The minute there is a meeting, okay, meeting and bye bye, tata on the video call, and we are off, we leave the meeting. So those type of nuances, and how do I know whether my colleague sitting in China or Hong Kong or in Bangladesh has understood what I'm saying? Why? When I'm on the video, I'm looking not only at others, but I can see very few people on the screen. What am I doing? I am looking at myself. And this is what somebody that they told me when I was speaking to the person. He's a top person in one of the IT company. He said, Combin, what are we doing? We are looking at ourselves. We are looking at how are we projecting our talk? How are we doing? We are not paying attention to the audience in terms of those finer points that has the audience understood. Does he have any problem? Does this person need to go somewhere? I can see that the person is fidgeting because he wants to say something. All those things are missing. And that is why what we say is that we have to be extra sensitive and careful when we are using these remote communication tools. And this brings up to the most important topic, is that is about empathy. When we say that cross-cultural communication, we say communication has to be effective, it has to be good. What are we talking about? We are talking about empathy. Now, if I go by the definition of empathy, it will say, yeah, okay. And if I were to ask all you HR, you all will say, yeah, we know. It's about knowing and understanding the other person's point of view and feelings. Okay. But the point here is, it is a little bit more than that. It is little bit more than just having emotions. Okay. It is more than that. It is not about telling the other person, oh, I know that this is happening. We need to be tolerant. Okay. Important is we need to be tolerant about other people's ceremonies or other people's culture. Like I'm talking about ceremonies, especially because just now it's Ramadan time. Last time in the office, when there is Ramadan time, we know that people are fasting. We will not go and disturb people. But now what is on our mind? On our mind, it is like, okay, the person is at home, he can pray, he can fast, he's resting, so I can go and disturb him anytime, and maybe on the Microsoft Teams chat or on a chat or a WhatsApp, I can just ask him, hey, can you just give me 5 minutes of your time? Now that was never done in a face-to-face session. Okay, so this is some of the things that we need to understand. Even we have to be sensitive to ethnic diversity, about our beliefs and value systems. Like, if I'm having an important meeting, I must take into account that my colleague or my reportee has his prayer time, or that somebody has to go and fetch his son. Why? Because the person is sitting at home. Now, if you tell me, oh, work from home means you have to work 8 hours, it's not so. In that 8 hours, because your work is interrupting your home life, you could be fetching your son from school. I think the other day I heard one of our AsiaHRM members talk about that I need to just go down to the bus stop and get my son from his school, or the daughter, or whoever. So these are things. Another thing is, what do? We close our room door and we sit. We tell our family members, oh, I have an important call. If there are children, of course, I'm not going to talk into the psychology of the children, but if they're children, what are we projecting to them? We are projecting, my door is closed for you. Okay. So these are some of the things that we as people managers need to understand and be empathetic towards all this. Okay. Another important point is, last time when we hired managers, what did we hire managers for? We hired managers to manage people, to manage work. Then what do? After that, then there was a phase wherein we said, okay, I think the manager must be able to coach. So we got managers who are good at coaching. We train them to become coaches. But now, even this primary function of managers, that is to coach, is actually being tested since the pandemic has begun. Why? Because of these 3 disruptive trends that have happened. What has happened? Normalization. The first point is normalization of remote work. Means what? Managers only focus on output. They never focus on managing the people or the process by which people are producing work. The second point is acceleration in technology. What happens with AI coming, all this artificial intelligence, new technology is being brought to the table every second. And monitoring is happening, remote employee monitoring is happening very well. So manager is not even doing that. He or she doesn't need to do that. What is happening? The third important point is employees' expectations are changing. Why? Because we as HR, we have said, oh, because of the pandemic, there should be mental health programs, there should be childcare programs. We should take care of our employees. That's all right, okay. But what happens? The employee is expecting more support. Employee is expecting the managers to be part of their support system, to help them improve their life experience and not just their employee experience. Employee experience now is a way of something of past. We are talking about life experiences. How can a manager or how can a boss help us improve our life experiences is what we are expecting. All right. And that is some of the three, I think the three most important things, okay, which are now saying that it is less important to see what the employees are doing and more important to see how they feel about this. So what we need to do is we need to have radical flexibility, okay. So if we want to have this radical flexibility, means we really want to have flexible approach of doing things, of managing people, then we really need empathetic managers. Now, one important point is what do you mean by empathetic managers? Empathetic managers are somebody or is somebody who will build fundamentally different relations with their employees. Okay. So empathy is not new to us. All of us HR know what is empathy. Okay. And we will say that really a good empathetic manager would be somebody who will be able to contextualize performance and behavior, okay, who will be able to transcend means go above this, okay, about the simple understanding of work and proactively ask questions and seek information from the employee. That is what we are talking about, empathy in these times. Yeah. So what are the advantages of having empathy is that we can develop, as Kay had also asked about the culture and about the diversity. It's the same way we will be able to develop high levels of trust and care and a culture of acceptance. Okay, that's most important, that a culture of acceptance happens. Now we talk about this saying, okay, empathy isn't easy. Believe me, it is not easy, but it is worth it. And why is it not easy? Because to develop empathy, it is a very vulnerable situation there. Okay, it's a very vulnerable conversation practice we have. So when we say, assuming say that my boss tells me that, okay, Combin, can you talk to your people and can you lead them with empathy? Oh, leading with empathy can be quite intimidating. Do you know why? Because managers are scared actually that when they ask questions, are they too personal? And they worry, how do I build this trusting relationship with my direct reports? And another thing is, what have we heard all this while? Oh, you do not need to bring so soft your side, you don't show all the time that you care so much and all that, you have to be firm, you have to look at performance, okay? But then so these questions come to a manager who has many years of experience. They'll be thinking, is caring acceptable at work? How much do I care? How do I keep my work life and how do I keep my employees' work and life separate? No, employees are now not looking at it. As I said earlier, they are looking at life experiences, okay? They are waiting to have life experiences. And that is something that I want to bring here to this point. So I think, how do we build managers' motivation to lead with empathy? Okay, you have to give them support systems. Okay, you have to give them small projects, make them work in smaller teams to make them feel safe. Okay, so it's a psychological safety. They must have psychological safety. Another thing is create manager capacity for empathy by optimizing the reporting lines. Okay, this is something that we need to understand. We do not need to overwhelm the manager by managing the work and the performance and the empathy and the employee's work life. I think it is more about us trying to get the manager to be convinced that, okay, empathy will work in this situation. Cross-cultural management, okay, cross-cultural management, when we talk, requires a lot of empathy, because as Kay has rightly said, there are different beliefs, different values, different ways of operations, okay? And how do we sort of merge this, especially in the times of COVID, okay? So I think that that is some of the points that I wanted to bring up, and maybe have the audience also ask us a few questions. Maybe we can have this discussion further now. And I know I've spoken a little bit fast, and that is one of the cultural thing that I have, that I'll speak very, very fast. But I'm sure all of us have, all of you have understood what I'm trying to say here, at least, yeah. And one takeaway that would be, I would say, is that yes, we all need to be more empathetic and understanding about our people and our employees. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kay, and thanks, Combin. I think really, thanks. It was very well put. I think Mr. Samir also says, and we did get quite a bit of inputs, and then I think the point around Esther Moose says, agree with Combin on the manager's focus only on output. Grace says, appreciate if anyone can share about effective remote communication. So I think, Kay, and the next point from Mrs. Susan Parija is in online work, trust is a must. So can I request Kay, going back to you, you mentioned about the ART, right?
Yeah.
The framework,
Mm.
so which definitely, trust is the end state of it, right? We achieve
Yeah.
trust as part of the T. So would you mind sharing a little bit more on that? Then
Sure. Sure. I'm quite sure that Kevin will have a lot to input as well. So I'll make a start. So for ART, it's basically we consider that as a generally applicable kind of model, right? No matter you're working from home, working in the office or not. But then it has become even more important during the online world. Especially like again, I learned so much from Kevin's like sharing as well. It's like how can you like demonstrate trust by like every day you just asking your employees whether you're doing 8 hours of work or not, like where are you like at the 3:15, right? So I think that all starts like from authenticity, meaning that how can you be create a safe space for people to be very open in terms of what their needs are. Because sometimes, or even though I feel like some of the managers keep on saying that, oh, just find HR, but like there's so many things that the coaches, oh, by the way, we use the terminology of coach instead of manager to make sure that people switch, like languages do matter. So use the word carefully and say that like, oh, my coach is doing this. Then you keep on reminding the person that, yeah, you have the responsibility to coach, right? So on that, it needs to start with like, how open are you first? You can't expect like your subordinates to all of a sudden like jump in and say everything about themselves to you while you can keep yourself quiet on everything. While you need to keep the cultural sensitivity of, about like what can be asked or what cannot be asked. And I think that takes time. That is the difficult part. Like before this working from home thing, is at least like, I'm not sure about you, but like quite a lot of our people go when they go to their like bosses, quote unquote, we don't use that word, but when they do go to their bosses, before they even enter the room, they would usually check with the secretary or whoever who's around them and say, hey, what's the weather like? Like, what is his mood or her mood like today? But you can't do that now, like in an online kind of environment. So, and what we have done, like to give you a more specific example in terms of how we do it, because we now don't have all the like pantry talk, right? So our team, it actually took us very long to come up with this solution, but we have got a workforce group to come together and think about the new situation, what works best. And it needs to be very simple, that people don't feel like they have to do something. It even complicates their work life a bit more, right? Is to have what we call the Heartland Hangouts. So we need to be very intentional and put people who don't usually like work in the same function together and say, like, the three of you is in a group, on a monthly basis, you just chit chat, nothing about work at all. So that's where the authenticity comes from. Because if every time that you see this person, And say, for example, Foster, I see him on my screen. If every time I see Foster is asking me to do something, I don't feel that I'm connected with him as a human being. It's like my manager doesn't care about me, they just care about the work. So for the coaches, they need to have this like very conscious kind of effort in terms of how they connect their own people, how they themselves connect with the with their own teams in terms of how it goes, and also be very they should already be like that before the online timing. Be very patient when their subordinates are calling them at the wrong time because they cannot check weather anymore. So I think there's like this mutual kind of understanding that like everyone is in a different kind of situation. It would be even more so after the hybrid environment. Like Singapore is a bit blessed that some of us can go back to the office, but like this hybrid model is here to stay. And to get Cabin's point, it's not going to go back to the old normal. It's the new normal now. How can we pivot around it? And honestly, some of the more old school managers are saying, "Oh, the office is reopened. Let's get everyone back at the same time." Unfortunately, it doesn't work so much anymore. It's more about flexibility. It seems to be oversimplifying things when we say art like authenticity, relationship, trust, but it all starts there. The word authenticity is not easy as well. You need to invest time because it's not day one that people will be open to you. It's not day one that you will tell your life stories to your manager. It's not like your coach, like even though we call them the coach, do they really trust you to have the good intention to coach me? That's the thing. It's a day in, day out kind of thing that you need to work. It's sometimes the manager is saying, why is it so tiring? Well, that's why you're a manager, right? That's part of your role to be able to bring people up and then bring the best out of them. Hope that helps.
Well, that really helps, Kay. I think. Thank you so much. Combin, can I come to you with the other part of the question raised by Grace, saying, what do you think are the key aspects of an effective communication in this remote work environment, right? Because we know we've heard you about the biases, we've heard about the maybe things like semantics, where we have to be mindful of others and all. So could you share a few thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that it is very important that for effective communication, that we are making our communication very, very crisp. Okay, so we need to have very crisp communication. Last time we could say that, okay, that there is an inherent message in whatever we are saying the last time. So we did not really need to spell it out. But now, if you want to really make communication effective, you have to spell it out. You need to let people know from the starting as to what is it that you're talking about, Then you have to tell them what is it that you're expecting them to do. Okay, because if there are people who do not understand what you're trying to say, so if you've been working, assuming that, say that last time I used to go to Myanmar, I used to go to China, it was still easy for me because when I used to go there, I would sit and talk to them, make them understand. But now virtually, it may really not be possible for them. So I need to spell it out in very certain terms, my expectation, and that what am I expecting them to do. I must also tell them something very important is that my line of communication is open. You need to ask me questions. Please get back to me as many times as you want so that you do not have to face any difficulty on the way. So we need to make it very easy for them, but also give them that sense of comfort and trust, because if you don't have that, it's not going to work, So you must be genuine. You must be genuine and you must spell it out. So even when there is a small project given to anybody now, you need to tell them, okay, this is the project, this is the timeline. Last time it should be, okay, fine, you will do this. And why? Because the person can walk into your room anytime.
Yeah,
now you can't. So you need to understand this and tell them specifics, very, very specific, make it very specific for them. And please have time for them. I understand in this time and age, like especially when I'm saying that work life is actually interrupting our time, our personal time. But this is something that we need to be very specific about. Yeah, make your communication very, very specific and crisp and clear. Yeah.
Thanks, Common. Thank you. Okay. So there's a request from Foster, as in, how I am as an expat. And I don't know if I'm qualified to give you tips as such, but then, yeah, I think it also goes down, and I think that's where we heard Kay and Combin, both of them, mentioning and covering aspects like respect, inclusion, and removing our personal biases. So I think the way I look at it is there are small things like the time where we eat dinner, right? I've observed that people eat early lunch and early dinner in Singapore. It's a cultural practice, right? I mean, it's a practice as a country, maybe as a community, but there's a cultural aspect to it, right? And the country from where I come from, especially the eastern part of India, we are quite late in terms of eating our meals and spread out during the day. So personally, I believe when I try to connect with people, so I'm trying to set up, networking meetings. I'm going and meeting down people, meeting people over coffee and asking them, trying to, say, let me buy you coffee, or some of those. I think those are things that are taken not so openly from the country and the part of the country that I come from, but it's very open here, right? So I think it's about also appreciating those and respecting that aspect of the country or the culture that we are part of. So I'm trying. I would say I'm trying a lot, and I see, people call me for dinner at 6 o'clock, and honestly, I used to have dinner at 10:30 at night. I mean, that's what the family dinner starts at 10:30. So it's a bit of different, but yeah, I'm enjoying it because that's how you get used to new cultures, and you also start respecting them, appreciating the practices. So I think I'll keep it very personal because I'm still trying to, I'm still doing work from home, so as such, don't have any professional experience to share as such. But
May I jump in? Because like in
please,
a way,
please,
I was an expat like 6 years ago, quite far away.
please,
but then,
thank you.
but then no problem. I think you're on point because it's about the personal touch. As we already shared, like everyone has different needs, right? If you don't know the person, it's very difficult. Now that you've mentioned it, what we have actually got a practice when we onboard people, we make sure that they have one-on-ones with different people. So when we
Mhm.
say one-on-ones, is that like instead of the usual kind of team meeting that we usually do when it's like onboarding, etc., we want to make sure that they spend time with the key stakeholders one on one. And then when you start, we also make a rule that you in that session you cannot talk about work. So
Right.
it's just like force people to say this is really like trying to get to know each other. Like depending
Mhm.
on the person's comfort kind of level, they may talk about different things. Some people talk about their pets, some of them talk about other things. That's fine. That's totally fine because those are the things that are important to them. So I think it all ties to what we were saying earlier on. It actually takes a lot of time. So the other thing is about the corporate culture as well. When we talk about culture, oftentimes we talk about a culture from some country because someone coming to Singapore, they need to adopt to the Singapore country. But then if they join a new organization, they need to adapt to a new kind of organization kind of culture as well. And I personally believe like HR professionals, the reason why we are so valuable, we are the one to help the senior leaders to see all these. Because even if I tell you that authenticity is very important and all that, as a junior staff, new joiner joining the company is very difficult. So we actually have a role to influence the senior leaders saying that, hey, this is important because of the different points that I mentioned about attract new talent, save training costs, do better decision, better business, like say from the way that they would like to hear it, so that they will actually embrace the culture and they lead by example. I consider that that's very, very important, other than just HR saying that when you join, you need to be authentic, but when they see the boss coming in being very bossy and all that, then
Right.
it doesn't sync, and it's
Yeah.
even worse from an internal brand kind of point of view.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we have one question about how a good company. So this is from Arka Banik. Thanks, Arka. saying, we read a lot of books that diversity is important in a good company, but then there are instances where the company tries to hire people, rather than being more diverse from their own culture or country in terms of nationality. And then how do we really start looking at, meeting new people to get to know their cultures while we prepare ourselves to work in a foreign country. So Arga is from second is an MBA student, and he wants us to answer this. But then I just want to call out, if there's anyone else who has a question, would you want to call it out and we can take it together? But Yeah. So I think I'll while we wait for others, I think it's Arga. If I can start off while I'm not because I'm trying to settle down. It's just been a year, and when we came to Singapore last year, the lockdown started or the circuit breaker started, and it's only now that I'm really meeting a lot of people. I think, yeah, while companies are, may at times tend to hire nationals in the country where they are based out of, I think it's more to set up the base and have people whom they trust, right? So that they can quickly upscale and build the base on which they can then, bring in people. Because I think we also appreciate that diversity, and it's intense, and it takes a lot of time investment. So that could be one of the reasons, and I'll hand it over to Kay and Combin to comment on that. But that's my observation till now. But I think companies nowadays have become a lot more diverse, because with diversity comes experience and richness, right? And that's where you add true value to the organization when they're trying to spread into other geographies and become a global company. So Kay and Combin, any of you want to kind of add on to that, please?
Yeah, so as we are saying is that diversity is necessary. Yeah, diversity is necessary to bring in that particular richness. But we also do see here, and you're not wrong in actually pointing out that yes, to in order to make sure that we start off, assuming say it's a startup company or even a company which is say opened in one particular region, okay, and then they want to diversify to other countries, we do see that they would prefer that the person from that original country goes there, sets up the base, and then they will hire local people. It is very common, right? Because as we said, is they know the company culture. The person who has been hired first does know about the company culture. And if the company has, assuming say, I just give an example, suppose if the company has say opened in Singapore first, and then you're diversifying in other countries, it is bound to happen that you will have people from Singapore going to other countries to set it up, okay, and then have local hires there. like like I'll give an example. Like in my previous company, we used to have that. Our company started in India, but then of course they're a global company. They are in about 135 countries, 135 countries. And originally for the first 5 years, every person that you see, every country manager or every business head in that particular new country was an Indian. But the rule was very clear. You set it up, you hire a local, you train them, you coach them, and then you move to another site. Yeah, so that is how it was. So yes, it does happen, and sometimes we feel that that why are we not being hired, for some particular and then of course there is a bias. It is not that it is all very very cushy and very hunky dory. I would say there are things, but then we must also understand language. Language also is a barrier. So if I am in Indonesia, like right now, my work base is in Indonesia, but I don't speak Bahasa Indonesian. I don't speak, but my base is in Indonesia. Why? Because we have company in Singapore, we have company in Indonesia and across the globe. So the point here is that we should take into account all those things, and our mind should be open. Very important. One point I want to say is that keep your mind accepting and open, that is something that we all need to learn. And I think we have to learn it all the time.
Yeah.
Keep our mind open and accepting. Yeah.
So before I request Kay, I think the other thing that came to my mind, and Kay, you may want to touch upon that, is the format that Combin spoke of, right, is also, if we take the HR manager's hat, right, it's a career progression that we also offer to the employees who are, part of the parent company, right? So there has to be some career framework, career progression. So that's how it works. And I think, when you wear the HR manager's hat, and then put on the cultural color to it, I think there are a lot of things that comes together, right? So I think it's complex. Cultural management in itself is complex, and then you put on the HR manager's hat. So I think there are so many things that works on. So Kay, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally agree with the two of you. Like, I think back to the basic question of like why people would still have like uniform kind of team. There are practical reasons, like if the to a company's point, like if there is like language barrier, and nowadays like visa, like countries are being very closed out to foreign workers, which is something that we face like day in day out. Let's be honest. Those are the barriers that we can't overcome just by being a HR professional in a particular country. The other thing is that I'm not entirely sure whether all business owners are aware of the power of a diverse team. Like you is setting a very good tone. Like and as a start, as an MBA student, you're already reading a lot about diversity and inclusion. Good on you. Some other leaders, they may not be aware of the numbers that I've shown you just now. Diverse teams makes better decision 87% of the time. They may not be aware of it. It may be a lack of education. And then the other part is being human. Just now I mentioned about all the unconscious bias. The tricky part about unconscious bias is, do you know what that is? It's
We
being
don't ask me to know.
unconscious.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right too, but it's being
Okay.
unconscious. That is why we keep on repeating about what is the tips of addressing that bias. How can we be more open? And I think starting it right. I'm just trying to read your message. You're trying to know more people as much as you can. You're a marketing student, but you start your MBA. You try to widen your scope, not just from a nationality point of view, but people from different walks of life you may be able to meet, right? So like on okay, I address your more personal question first in terms of how you can make have a better chance to work in a foreign country. Equip yourself, educate yourself, keep on coming to this forum, talking to different people that you don't usually meet. Are there networks that you haven't tapped into? Are there people that you really want to know but you haven't known yet? Who are those people who may connect you with those? And I think like coming to AsiaHRM is actually a very good start. Like I really think so, because on the regional kind of platform, you can meet people from other countries, other markets, learning from them. And if there's anybody like that you find, oh, I mentioned about one-on-one, right? I want to connect with the person. Feel free to. Nowadays it's so easy, like LinkedIn, like honestly, as an HR manager, I don't accept all the kind of invitation, honestly. But like you need to take the first step to reach out to people, and you don't just do randomly. You kind of make a point of like why you want to know this person,
Connection.
who are those other people that may
Right.
know the person, and introduce like in terms of random cold call, right? I think that matters a lot. Um, so back to the HR professional headline on, I think again we have the role to educate the leaders, not just the GMs, but in general on day in day out how we conduct ourselves. If we go into a meeting, or if we actually have a very important role of recruitment. When we recruit for a certain role, can we make sure that we have diverse pool of candidates? It can be difficult, but I think there will be at least one that is not in that group. You want to make sure that you look for that opportunity. If you don't have yet, you need to think about, like, again, challenge yourself, challenge your assumption. Am I not looking at something? Like, am I not going to the right places? Am I not asking the right questions so that I can tap into that talent pool? And after the person has come in, how can we ensure that they feel welcome, they feel respect, they feel included? Because having them in as a number is one thing, having them contribute is another thing, but then it's a lot of time and resources kind of investment, which is worthwhile.
Right. So we are almost towards the end of the session, but can I, before we end, and can I go to Combin and say, what could you maybe take a, one sentence or few words or one key takeaway from this session for our participants? And, Combin, if you can share first, and Kay, if you could go next.
Okay, I think that I think this session. Okay, first of all, just let me thank all the participants here. Even before you are going to not give me another chance to speak, Abhi here. So let me just thank all my audience here and also all the people who have actually organized this. I think that it is most important in this COVID time, though I have to keep on saying this word COVID, okay? None of us like COVID, but we have just to, it's just come into, it's just ingrained into my system right now. So I would say that all of us need to understand and, be more empathetic for about all these things that are happening to our people, okay? Because in different situations, like right now in Singapore, we are still safe. But in other
Mhm.
countries, I know how difficult it is in Myanmar. Okay, Myanmar has got the coup. It's so dangerous there, and it's not only COVID plus that. So there's a lot of things that are added. I think we need to be more empathetic towards everyone, but let's not change our focus just to empathy. Okay, we need to understand that yes, work needs to get done, but let's do it in a better way. Yeah, I would just like to say that let's get work done in a better way, nicer way, and please be more understanding and empathetic towards our people, right? That's the takeaway that I would have to just tell everybody here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Kay, would you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm aligned with Combin. Actually, when I say authenticity, it's basically also about empathy. It starts from like being your authentic self, then you can be open and share. Then you can start to get people to know your world. Because like we can do as much as we can to guess and to like think that we are empathetic, but we're not living in their own world. Like, can we be more open to know more, to stay curious, stay humble, stay respectful, to learn about all these wonderful like cultures, all these wonderful people around us, to be able to make the world a little bit better through doing the business, through business still important, like to Cummins' point. But for all these to happen, you need to start with somewhere that you are open to share so that others can be easier to be empathetic towards you as well. And you take the same kind of stand. And it doesn't stop there. Again, I keep on repeating this. It's not an easy job. It's like day in, day out, every day matters. But
Yeah.
kind of every day matters then becomes a bigger kind of difference that we'll be able to make. Hopefully that helps because it's a very big topic, to be honest. And kudos to the Asia HR team, HRM team to have this forum. I love it.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Kay. We have quite a few thoughts here, and Esther, thanks for sharing that. There are countries as such where diversity and some of these are quite just breaking the ice, maybe. And she shares her experience around what's happening in Japan. She's from Singapore and now in Japan. So thanks, Esther, for sharing that. Thanks, Mr. Samir, for arriving at some of those by setting the KPI. I think a lot of organizations are consciously doing this, right, as a practice. And I remember a very good practice back in 2009, if I'm not wrong. I used to work with Cognizant at that point in time. There was a small market research company, Cognizant Technologies, acquired back in India. And I believe at that point in time, it was a KPI for the managers to hire one differently abled person in his or her team. It was a company culture. It was a mandate, like you're saying, Mr. Samir, for that small company. And we had a lot of differently able people coming on board at the same time, and we had to learn so much to respect them, to respect the differences, even the way the email communications were drafted, right? So we had visually challenged people who came on board. And suddenly corporate communications had this issue how the emails were framed, because emails used to be framed just as a JPEG image in the mail body, corporate communications emails. But then the software which converts the email content into audio content for these people, for these employees, started failing because it cannot convert audio, JPEG to audio. So then, so those were the small things. I think each of these, right, are practices that I think are becoming more prevalent. I think organizations are becoming more and more conscious about a lot of these. And I think all of these keep contributing back to the culture, aspect of how we as individuals, build the organization culture, right? Debjani wants to share something, but while Debjani does it, can I? Okay, I'll help unmuting you, Debjani. Just give me a second. Go ahead. Can you try doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, hi Abhi. Nice to see you on this call.
Thank you.
So, in line with what you just mentioned, and hi everybody. In line with what just Abhi mentioned, I also remembered a very nice experience that I had while working with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So, I had this colleague of mine, and PwC was always very much inclined on hiring diverse people and differently abled people, like you said. So I had this colleague of mine in a different department who was visually challenged, and he had been given a completely a separate laptop with a software installed in it, which speaks to him while he types, and it enabled him to work and perform like any one of us, or even better than us, I would say. And we have seen him going to all kinds of seminars representing PwC. We have seen him going to marathons even, and the only thing where he required help, and that's sadly, that was the HR part, was our performance management system, which was there at that point of time. So the performance management system was not supporting any visually challenged person. So I had the opportunity of sitting with him every 6 months and filling up his reviews for him while he typed, and while he said, and I typed it for him. So he said that only this thing is, I am requiring help on only this part, and that's from the HR side. So if you can do something which enables me to, be independent in this front also, so I can work like anybody else. So there are organizations who are actually promoting, like you said, they're promoting taking in people from all walks of life,
Right.
differently abled and diverse and everything. So
Yeah.
that is what I wanted to share. So,
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think with technology becoming more and more an enabler for productivity, performance, and workplace as such, I think it's important that we all contribute as HR professionals. I think a lot of us here today are HR professionals. I think we carry this forward, right? Whatever we
yes,
learn today.
true.
Before we end, can I request all of you, if possible, to switch on your videos? We'll take a group photo for our archives. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me take the
If,
photo.
yes, please, Foster. Thank you. I think if you can give it just maybe 10 seconds more.
Yeah.
If anyone else is switching on. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me count 1, 2, 3, and then I will take a group photo. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Awesome. Okay.
Thanks, Foster. I think I think thanks all of you for joining. If there's anything else that you want to reach out to us for, your thoughts, comments, questions, please feel free. Use the Asia HRM LinkedIn page, Facebook group, and then let's stay connected. Join Asia HRM group if you haven't already. You can go to the Asia HRM website and become a member. Combin and Kay, I think, thank you very much once again for being with us here today and sharing your knowledge. And Combin, sorry that I started with that confusion, right? Because I think we said we'll start with K,
Yeah,
and then I
yeah,
handed over to you.
yeah. It's
But
okay.
yeah. But then, but thanks for being so nice to all of us, and we look forward to having both of you in any of our future knowledge sharing sessions.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think
Thanks
there's
a
a question around the video. The video would be available. There was some issue with the Facebook Live, but we'll see how we can get the video. We recorded the session, so we'll see how the video can be made available.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the participants as well. I forgot to say.
Thank you.
you're
Thank you to
awesome.
all the
Thanks.
participants.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Thanks, Foster. Thanks, everyone. See you guys quickly
Everyone.
again. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Combin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Foster. And yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah. Foster, I'll connect with you sometime on the other group.